What's
There's
that?
like a bunch of construction going on down my street.
Okay, yeah. So if you hear construction noises, I hope that's your kink because we can't help it.
Yesterday I was sitting outside because it was so nice, and a plane went over, and I was like, oh, is that Tasha's plane? Twice that happened. And I was like, because when you fly into Madison, you go like right over my house. You can see my house, you know?
Yeah, we got in at like 9. So I was looking out the window, though. I'm like, I wonder if I can see Gabe's house from here. I have no idea.
All right, well, welcome to SVU Pod Especially Heinous. I'm Gabe.
I'm Tasha.
We are on Season 5, Episode 12, Brotherhood.
Gross.
So the opening scene, we're at a wastewater treatment center. This employee is telling a supervisor that they need to shut down due to this issue with the tank. She's upset. She's like, oh, shutdown's going to cost a lot of money, but like, so will shit blowing up, you stupid bitch, you know?
Yeah.
I fucking hate that shit where they're like, we can't shut things down. But it's like, if you don't, the government or the world's going to explode.
And it also seems every time they bring it up in those kind of like high pressure situations, it's really fucking risky.
Right.
Like, we can't shut down now because if we shut down, it'll inconvenience us a little bit. But if it blows up in our faces, the fucking nuclear codes explode everywhere. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally like what happened in Chernobyl. The guy's like, we're not shut down. They're like, it's going to blow up, but we're not shutting, you know.
Right. So this is going to turn out really well.
Yeah. So when they get to the tank with the problem, there's a dude with a big net, and he's like, I got something. And a fucking purple-ass dead body floats up, like a big body.
Right. That was me, actually. That was my first role ever. And, yeah.
A big purple body.
That was my purple bloated corpse.
Was my nickname in high school.
I also played Grimace in all of the old McDonald's commercials.
God, yeah, I used to have a big fat ass.
I thought you were going to say a big fucking hard-on for Grimace. I was like, he seems like your type.
That's when I knew I was queer. Okay, so obviously now it's a crime scene. There's officers, CSU, SVU, they're all on the scene. Stabler's talking to a cop. The victim is a white male, late teens or early 20s, appears to have had something shoved up his rectum.
That's why SVU's there.
Yeah. He doesn't have a wallet or clothes on him, and they didn't find anything nearby. The wastewater plant is locked in the evenings and weekends, but the officer says that it would be super easy to break in. The treatment plant boss lady tells Benson how the tanks work. There are these things that aerate the water and keep everything spinning so solids don't float up.
Poop.
Yeah. That's why the body was kept unseen in the water.
Mm-hmm.
Just poop. The employee dude says that there's tons of microorganisms in there and that the body has been in the tank for probably about a week, but he doesn't know. He doesn't know shit. He's just a poop guy.
He does know shit.
Oh,
Me and Staves over here.
yeah, right. Benson thinks that the microbes in the tank probably have eaten the trace evidence. Stabler says, well, whoever dumped our victim really knew their crap. We got poop jokes over here.
Poop jokes. 2 for 1. Poop jokes.
Get them while they're hot.
Get them while they're steamy hot. Gross.
So now we're at Coroner Warner's office. She tells Benny and Staves that she thinks the body was dumped in the water about 36 hours before being found. So that would make it late Saturday night. The cause of death is blunt force trauma to the head. The sewage washed away a lot of evidence, but she did find Pyrex glass in the victim's scalp.
Benny was like, oh, so Corningware was the fucking whip.
Yeah. And she's like, yeah, maybe. I don't know.
But I was like, I thought Pyrex was a brand name, but it's like a type of glass?
I thought it was a brand name too. But
or
maybe,
is it a brand name? I didn't look into it. I was doing this on the plane, so I couldn't.
Maybe it's a
fucking
brand
Google it.
name and it's like they invented it.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh.
Or maybe they do the same thing because they mentioned fucking Dominoes later. So
Right? Or Kleenex.
maybe they're just throwing around fucking just slugging Pepsis right on screen.
Label out. Take a gulp.
Yeah.
You know? The victim was also sodomized with something that causes major lacerations. And a tattoo of Greek letters for a fraternity were found on his body. She couldn't make out what the tattoo was and had to remove fucking 5 layers of epidermis before she could see it. And I was like, holy shit. So the tattoo is from Tau Omega, some fraternity 2 blocks away or whatever. Coroner Warner was actually able to find the victim in the Greek directory her husband keeps next to his Harry Potter books, which made Stabler laugh really hard. This guy's name is Tyler Henry Jr. I didn't understand that little, I don't know why they had to have that in there, but they're good
It
books.
personalized it in a way that I really liked.
Yeah. One of his housemates, Rob Sweeney, reported him missing yesterday. Coroner Warner is so fucking good at her job, dude. This whole thing, she was like, oh, I figured all this out.
I looked into this. Also, I did half of your work for you that I didn't have to do, but I did because, you know.
And you laughed at my husband's reading choices. Get out.
Have a little respect.
I'm Coroner fucking Warner.
At the Tau Omega fraternity house, Benny and Stabes are doing a walk and talk on campus with Rob. Rob is oozing early aughts frat from his pores.
Yeah, he's gross.
He has a stupid hoodie on with Greek letters and a stupid hat that matches with Greek letters and a cool denim jacket, but that's neither here nor there. He just looks like the guy that's like, line up, pledges. It's gross.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He says he hadn't seen Tyler since the Saturday before, and he wants to be the one to tell Tyler's parents about his death. Tyler's dad, Xander, was an alum of the frat as well, so they're all fucking brothers or whatever.
Nobody's named Xander.
Sorry, Xander. There's like one guy in his car, and he's like, oh. There's never a little license plate at the gift shop when I go.
Is that a Alexander? Like, instead of just being called Alex, you go for the last longer part?
Well, there's like people that go by Topher for Christopher, which I am so sorry if you do that, but I hate it. That guy's in a frat. The guy who uses the long part of the extended name.
Mm-hmm.
Ben isn't in the frat. Jamin is.
Oh, I was with you the whole way for that.
Thank you.
I was on board.
Okay, so Tyler's mom lives in Maine and dad's a big shot lawyer uptown. I'm like, this is just stacking up to be a really great SVU episode. Dad's a big shot lawyer. He's uptown. He's got power. Better watch what we're doing, team. Well, so they're walking and talking, right, on campus. They get to the frat house and go up to Tyler's room where there's a bunch of computer equipment. And they're like, wow, he's got a lot of funding. And Rob says that Tyler's dad only paid tuition. Tyler made all of this money to buy these things himself by doing web design. Benson starts to kind of imply that Tyler may have been stealing from the Panhellenic Council, which he was part of the frat treasury, whatever. But Rob defends Tyler, saying that he was just really good with money. Rob then shows them Tyler's computer. There's just sweet transition work happening in this moment because it zooms in on the screen and then it zooms out and boom, we're in the fucking crime lab and we're on Tyler's computer still. The CSU tech guy is examining Tyler's files. He confirms that Tyler wasn't a thief, that he had $40,000 worth of direct deposits coming in from a porn site that he ran, and he made money off of pop-up ads and shit. He also secretly videoed himself having sex with women and put it up on another site. I'm like, this is such a fucking cliche frat fucking...
Wasn't there a guy in the early aughts that did this shit? He like made a shit ton of money doing the same stuff.
Oh my God, are you
There's
thinking...
a documentary about it, and they, like, the women were pissed and trying to shut it down. But
the most hated man on the internet?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a... What was that on Hulu? It was a documentary?
This is what your chaser's about?
No.
Okay.
It could have been.
Good, because I don't want to talk about that guy anymore.
Oh, okay. You're like, we've been talking about him for the length of a Universe phone call. So Stabler asked the CSU tech for a list of advertisers on Tyler's sites because those are leads. Ooh, where does one lead take us? To Moose's Pub. We come into this scene with the eggiest, deepest voiced lumberjack bartender named Moose saying, "So Tyler Henry's dead. Damn." Munch and Toots are the ones that are there interviewing him, by the way. Mm-hmm. The bar owner knew Tyler and said that he made him a lot of money. Not only did this guy advertise on Tyler's site, but Tyler also apparently came up with Ladies' Night at Moose's Bar. What a fucking innovative genius. He's the Nikola Tesla of club promoting. Like, you know what? I got an idea. Let's do a Ladies' Night. Fucking...
It's like you own a bar. You never thought of that, you fucking turd.
Right? Does this guy have a full ride to college? He's a genius. So for this ladies' night, dudes would pay $10 a head and ladies got in for free. They closed the doors at 11, and that's when they would start the wet t-shirt contest. This bar would make $3,000 in a night doing that, and normally that would be a dead night. So this guy's like, Tyler fucking rules. I don't think I've ever said that sentence, and I'll never say it again.
No.
Nobody has.
No.
So the bar owner says that Tyler's dad represented he and Tyler in this case when a woman was angry about the wet t-shirt contest because the fucking footage that Tyler took ended up on one of Tyler's websites. So we better go talk to fucking Xander.
So Toots and Munch speak with Xander? So this guy, he's the guy who always plays bad guys. I know, I can't think of anything he's been in, but I know you'll tell me because
Here we go. This is actor Gary Cole. And if you've never seen him in anything, you've been watching TV and movies in a completely alternate universe. He has 200 credits, which include so much voiceover work: Family Guy, Big Mouth, Bob's Burgers, Kim Possible, Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law, long-running roles in series like NCIS, Veep, fucking Suits, y'all, Entourage, West Wing, and big old movies like Pineapple Express, Talladega Nights, Dodgeball. He was Mike Brady in the Brady Bunch movies. Fucking Bill Lumbergh in Office Space.
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, that's a fucking deep dive. But this guy, he is in absolutely everything, and he is always a fucking bad guy. But he's got an amazing voice too. So like, that's just like a fucking doop into his voiceover work. Like, he's done so many different roles. But yeah, he's great. He's awesome.
I forgot he was the dad in Talladega Nights. That's right.
Oh my God, yeah. If you ain't first, you're last.
You always told me.
Did I say that?
He's like their second, third, fourth place even. He tells them that the girl sued Tyler over the site, but she, quote, didn't have a leg to stand on since she stripped in a public place without the expectation of privacy. Toot says that a court in Texas awarded a girl $5 million who stripped in a bar. They said that she did have the right to privacy. Xander seems super familiar with that case and immediately responds with that the court actually ruled that a company couldn't profit from her likeness. Since the footage from Tyler's site is free and he wasn't making money off distributing it, the gal who was suing Tyler didn't win the case. Remember, they were saying that Tyler made money off the ads, not the videos. He's a shifty little fuck. Xander pours a drink. Toots asks him if he had any problem with his son exploiting drunk college girls. He gets pissed and tells them that they should be out looking for his son's fucking killer, not questioning his son's ethics.
I get that they're running down leads, and I hate that I agree with this guy, but I do, because that is true. I just want them to, because I don't want to be like, hey, because of course this is apt, but also let's up the bedside manner when dealing with the family of a victim, regardless of who that victim is.
Yeah, but Munch kind of pops in and he kind of reminds Xander that they're asking this stuff because it could have something to do with why Tyler was killed. Yeah. So Dad's like, okay, yeah, the girl's name is Chloe Spears. So Benson and Stabler go to speak with Chloe. She's a total fucking babe, by the way, and she looks really familiar.
Because it's Serena Williams, dude.
That's what I fucking thought.
Oh my God, this fucking show. Also, this episode, like, I think every other scene I was like, this popped up and I was like, is that Serena fucking Williams, dude?
Yeah.
Like,
that's what.
Yeah. Tennis pro Serena Williams. She actually pops up pretty regularly in different things because I was like, I wonder how many credits she has. 28. She has 28 credits. She was in multiple Beyonce music videos. But yeah, she does like a lot of little...
I was like, that looks like a young Serena Williams. I'm like, well, because it fucking is. You know?
Because it is. Like, she looks really familiar.
God.
Sorry, she's an extremely famous person.
She says that one night I went out for drinks with my friends, and the next thing I know, I was all over the fucking internet like some porn queen. Stabler tells her that she stripped in public and no one forced her to. And then she's like, well, 50 dudes were fucking pouring drinks down my throat and carrying me on their shoulders to a stage with a spotlight. She's like, I got drunk and I got fucking stupid. Which does not mean that she should have been taken advantage of. Like, you get to be drunk and stupid and not be raped or exploited.
Correct. So a gal fucking doing a wild night at a fucking bar, in her mind, is maybe surrounded by like a couple hundred people, not the entirety of the fucking internet. Her dad's not there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it is a violation. It is fucked up. And now, 20 years later, we're like, okay, we have to be more cautious about shit like this, and there's more laws in place and whatever, but...
I mean, shit was happening so fucking fast with the internet, like, they couldn't make laws and protect people fast enough. It was just... I mean, it still is a thing, but it's not as much. She says she only knew Tyler from that night, and he seemed like a nice dude. She asked him to take the video down, because if her coach had seen it, it could have made her lose her scholarship. Thank God he didn't, or she didn't, whoever.
That would have been a mistake. It's Serena Williams!
Right. Benson asked where she was Saturday, the night that Tyler would have been dumped in the water treatment plant. Chloe was playing an away basketball game. She says, quote, I got myself a triple-double. We beat Penn 82-45, and then makes a fucking dang swish. Whoop. The camera's like right there. So now we're at the precinct. Everybody's doing a case update. Craig and Munch and Stabler think Chloe could have had someone kill Tyler for her. This is such a reach. I was like, what? But she doesn't have a boyfriend, and Toots is on the phone checking with her family. Stabler says, what happened to keggers? Kids don't even party anymore. They're too busy making money off porn. And I just didn't even say anything to that. I was just like, next. Munch makes a comment about how the other women on the website don't seem to have a problem with being on Tyler's site, only Chloe. Benson's like, just because the other girls didn't sue doesn't mean that they were...
Not exploited.
Yeah, super pumped that they were exploited.
Right.
Munch fucking says, our culture teaches women that the quickest, easiest way to become rich and famous is to objectify themselves. Why get a job or an education when you can be the next winner on The Bachelor? It's the new American dream. And I was like, oh my God, The Bachelor's that old? Also... We don't fucking need your opinion. Like, when's the last time you've been a woman in this culture, Munch? Like, you stupid fucking rat king fuck. Like,
as he's fucking doubling down on this shit, Benny does that thing where she covers her face with both of her hands and teleports somewhere that's not in the room with this guy fucking mansplaining how women feel to a woman.
Right.
Where she's like, actually, and he's like, let me tell you a little something about being a woman these days. It's like, okay, thanks, Munch. Back in the walls.
I just came out here to find some hay for my nest or whatever the fuck. So Toots gets off the phone and found out that Chloe's dad, Vernon, was in Sing Sing for 3 years for assault and battery. Last week, he had busted into the frat house and tried to fucking fight Tyler. He also works for a furniture warehouse 4 blocks away from the treatment plant. 4 blocks. I feel like this fucking season, they're really trying out like different block distances.
They're really trying to expand this universe. Maybe as they go, oh my God, duh. As they go, New York grows every year and it's doubled in size at this point. Munch and Toots go to meet with Vernon. This guy was George Barnfather on Homicide, Life on the Streets, and acted alongside Munch years before SVU. And I was like, oh my God, they must have loved doing this scene together. Vernon says he was making deliveries until midnight on Saturday. Munch is like, on Saturday? I can't even get Dominoes to deliver past 10. And Dominoes is like, hey. They've really turned it around as a company. Vernon tells Munch and Toots that they pride themselves on their service and fully denies killing Tyler. That goes against our company policy.
I can't murder. I could have gotten fired.
I'm employee of the month. You think I'm going to kill a guy? Toots gets a call while Munch continues to talk with Vernon. Munch starts to victim blame Chloe, like, hey, she's pretty lucky going down to that bar and doing a little strip tease,
Yeah, he's trying to get him riled up.
Yeah. And he succeeds. Vernon gets fucking pissed and grabs Munch by the collar. Good thing phone calls are never more than 7 seconds because Toots grabs Vernon off of Munch like, what the fuck are you doing, my dude? And puts him in handcuffs. The call had been from Coroner Warner. They're going to take Vernon to the precinct to check out some evidence she found. Dominoes. Coroner Warner's going over the findings with Benny and Staves.
Dominoes, what? If you hear this, send me some fucking garlic knots. God.
Send it pizza. Hey, Dominoes, the person that is Dominoes. So at the crime lab, Coroner Warner is going over the findings with Benny and Staves. There are 2 kinds of fibers she found in Tyler. One was a hair, and Staves gets a little excited. And he's like, ooh, the perp's hair? Coroner Warner says, not unless he was related to Seabiscuit, and pauses for the laugh that she was expecting after the joke. And Benny and Staves just stare at her, which I agree. Seriously, dude, the like 1.5 second pause between her saying Seabiscuit and then them just continuing on with the conversation could have lasted the entire second act of the show. It felt that long. It was just dead air. That was the only joke she's ever attempted. She's like, that's it. I tried. Anyway, it was a horse hair. That was the joke. It was a horse hair. Mongolian stallion, she says. Ooh. Benny's been hanging out with Toots too much because she's like, oh, okay, cool. So what are we talking? Flog, whip, cat o' nine tails, hairball gag, sex swing compiled from bathhouse shower barns? What? None of those. It's none of that. The other fiber was actually from a rare Brazilian wood used for violins and their bows. So he was sodomized with a violin bow. Youch. And that shit is so fucking expensive. John's sister plays the violin. It's like $15,000 or something crazy for a violin. It's wild.
It's a whole world I don't know anything about. Like, holy shit.
I wouldn't have before knowing Heather. So back at the precinct, Stabler finds the kind of bow used to assault Tyler. It was $3,000. Jesus. There's one shop in town that sells them, and there was one sold to Nathan Angeli, a Tau Omega pledge. That was not difficult to run down. That was no fucking top of a pack of gum.
It wasn't a empty film container on top of the sexiest rock in New York City. Benny and Staves walk up to the Tau Omega house. A bunch of fucking dudes are standing on the steps. Their eyes are straight forward, and they won't respond to Stabler. One dude comes out the door. It was fucking Rob, right? That was Rob.
Yeah, that Rob dude. I know him because he's wearing that stupid hat. He wears it the whole time, so we know that it's him.
Yeah. He comes out the door, and he says, "Eyes front, dudes. Don't say a word." He tells Benson and Stabler it's a, quote, quiet day. Benson's like, "I don't fucking care. Make them talk. We need to talk to Nathan Angeli," or whatever the fuck his name is.
We're the literal Manhattan police. We're SVU detectives. There's a dead person that we have questions about.
I know. Rob says that Nathan was voted out the week before, but he won't tell them why because, quote, what happens in the fraternity stays in the fraternity. Stabler's like, "Come here, youngin'," and threatens him with obstruction of justice. And so the guy's like,
Those were his lines.
Yeah. So this guy, this fucking Rob guy, makes pledge, quote, Patsy tell them. All the pledge says is that he was voted out because he didn't understand unity and bonding. And Stabler's like, what the fuck does that even mean? Rob says no one wanted him around if all he was going to do is whine. And these fucking fraternity fucking stupid bullshit things. Like, this is the one time I wanted Stabler to fucking lose it on some stupid fucks, and he doesn't. Like, I wish he would have treated them like a pile of cups in the precinct and, like, dramatically knocked them around. Rob ends up telling Benny and Staves where Nathan lives on campus. So Benson and Stabler go to Nathan's dorm room. His roommate Will answers the door. He's like, what?
It's fucking Fulton Reed from Mighty Ducks.
I don't remember. I haven't seen that in a
He was
long
one of
time.
the Bash brothers. Oh, the Mighty, like the two fucking beefy dudes that are like, fucking Bash, whatever, from Mighty Ducks.
I don't remember. I haven't seen it in a long time.
This guy was also in the Hunger Games Mockingjay movies, Lords of Dogtown. He was fucking in The Butterfly Effect, Idle Hands, She's All That. Like, this guy has been in a ton of shit.
Okay.
He was a brunette in the Mighty Ducks, so maybe that's what's throwing you. Please tell me that's a movie you've seen 35 times, though.
I've seen it a couple times, yeah, but not in forever. There was probably a swear word in it, and my parents were like, no, you can only watch the Buttercream Gang.
Buttercream Gang.
So his roommate Will answers the door. Nathan isn't there. Benson finds a bong, and Will's like, no, don't tell my folks. They'll freak out at time. Stabler finds Nathan's fucking violin. Will says that Nathan had stopped playing when he was pledging. Stabler asks Will if he can take the violin, and Will's like, oh, you can't because it's not mine. And Stabler goes, well, I'll tell you what, how about we take the bong and you instead? And Will's like, oh, yeah, it's fine, take it.
Yeah, violin. So just the violin? Okay. Because weed was a big crime in 2003.
Okay. Will tells him that Nathan is with some, quote, and he goes like, woman named Alicia. I just thought that was funny because he was like, I'm trying to be, trying to be proper. I don't know. It was weird.
Right.
Anyways, Benson and Stabler find Alicia. She's wearing, is she somebody?
Not really, but she's in Euphoria.
She is?
She was in a couple episodes.
Who is she?
I don't know. I didn't look into it. I was just like, oh, shit.
Alicia's wearing a hoodie with the hood up, and when asked about Nathan, she lowers her hood and reveals pink roots and blonde hair. Earlier in the episode, she was one of the girls on Tyler's site where he was like secretly taping them having sex.
As soon as I saw her with her hood up, because at the beginning they were going through the gals on the site and they're like, oh, he's got quite a variety. And they were talking about the different ethnicities and they're like, he's even got a girl with pink hair. Whoa.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's going to come up later. And then we get to this girl who has her hood up and I'm like, there's pink roots under that fucking hood because I'm a goddamn detective.
She asks if Nathan is in trouble, and they're like, maybe. Do you know fucking Tyler? And she's like, no.
That's another rich guy nickname, Fanny. Have you ever heard a guy called Fanny?
No.
Because his name's Nathan.
Ew.
Yeah, that's a big time.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, rich white guy, Fanny.
Stabler says, well, then how did he end up with a video of you and him having sex? And she's like, oh my fucking God. She walks into her dorm room with them. She didn't know she was being taped, and she dumped Tyler the second she found out. Like, what a piece of shit. But Benson noticed that she has photos of that fucking wastewater treatment plant on a wall in her room. I was like, what the fuck?
She's like, it's the hottest wastewater treatment plant in the city. She's got it pinned
That's
up.
Where I met
like
Nathan.
It's from Tiger Beat.
Ew.
Toilet Beat.
Toilet Beat. Oh.
All right.
So she says she's an eco-science major and she was doing a project for school, and Nathan drove her there. So Nathan's been there before. She tells them that her and Nathan had been together all week and he didn't kill Tyler. And they're like, well, we didn't tell you when he was killed. That's weird that you said that. A message comes in on the computer. Benson intercepts and checks it. And it says, I thought you were meeting me. Benson asks if that's from Nathan. Alicia gets fucking pissed and upset. Benny and Stabes get suspicious and the music gets all swelly. And she tells them that they're going to meet at Cannon Cafe on campus at the CCC.
Yeah. So at the cafe, Alicia doesn't meet Nathan. Stabes does. Bloop. He plucks him right out and arrests him. This dude is the only one. There's so many people with like a billion trillion credits. This is the only one I found who has another role in SVU in 2016. Other than that, he doesn't have a ton of stuff. This guy's face makes me angry. In the precinct, Toots is showing Nathan the video of Tyler and Alicia. Now, this scene, we're going back and forth between interviews, right? In one room, Nathan is being questioned by Munch and Toots. He says that Tyler has shown the video to all of the other pledges to humiliate Nathan because Nathan was seeing Alicia. Well, because of this, Nathan stuck up for himself and got kicked out of pledging. Then he tells Munch and Toots that Alicia hated the frat, so it was fine that he got let go because he'd rather be hanging out with his girlfriend. Munch takes that opportunity to try and wordplay him, and he's like, oh, is that why you killed Tyler? Alicia put you up to it? And I was like, fucking smooth, Detective Munch. Smooth detecting. Cut to the room where Alicia's being questioned by Benny and Stabes. Alicia's annoyed that they think she and Nathan had anything to do with Tyler's death. She's got an easy alibi to check out. We were at the movies. And they're like, okay, hang on a second. Let's go check it out. Just kidding. We're going to keep questioning you. Stabler thinks it's a pretty big coincidence that Tyler's body was found at the same sewage treatment facility that Alicia had been researching.
I mean, that is.
Boom. And she's like, I don't know, dude. I don't know. I was at the movies. What do you want me to do? Back in Nathan's interview room, Munch and Toots show him the photo of the fibers from his violin. And they're like, how do you explain that? Mongolian horsehair guy. He tries to say, oh, my bow's in my violin case. And you're like, that's a cheap knockoff. You think we didn't fucking check that shit? He's like, okay, fine. I stepped on the fancy one and I broke it. So I replaced it with a cheaper one because I didn't want to spend $3,000 and my parents would be mad and whatever else. Nathan's starting to look a little worried. Back in Alicia's interview room. They are getting irritated with her. You better start talking, you super hardcore pink-haired hussy. Suspense, suspense, suspense. There's just like so much. This music does not stop the entire time. This
and they're like when they're like in their face, like when Stabler's talking to her, his lips are like brushing against her cheek as he's talking because he's that
it's
close.
Too much. Alicia tells them, fine, it was Will that killed Tyler. Nathan's roommate, Ashton Kutcher's friend, you know?
What?
The guy who's on the hockey team. The Mighty Ducks guy. Butterfly effect guy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The roommate who was like, my bong!
Yeah. Oh, that Will of the episode. Okay. That was my great-grandpa's. No, I'm just kidding.
That was my great-grandpa. She says that Will called Alicia's room around midnight the night Tyler was killed. He said that he needed to talk to Nathan. Nathan and Will had pledged together at the fucking frat, Tau Omega, and Will had quit the month before. Well, now we go to the other side of the glass. Do you have one? Because I have one.
I thought I was like, since it was your thing, I thought, I'm like, maybe Tasha wants to do one this time. But I can do one. But go ahead.
I have one, but it's
do it.
It's a little shout out one. On the other side of the glass in Cragen's mole hole, they're going over everything. The background music guy is not going to quit this episode. So Cragen's mole hole is like my favorite new thing. In our walk and talk group on the Facebook group, Ursula posted this and she added Gabe and myself. This was about a prior episode. The hedgehog rolling up into a library and leaving the room joke in the escape episode sparked another Cragen behind the two-way mirror theme idea. A wind in the willows style mole hole at Christmas where Mole Cragen is curled up in a plaid armchair, maybe
Cute.
with one of the mole judges sipping homemade wine in front of a cozy little fire. And then Kelsey replied to Ursula and said, OMG, and Cragen is reading a story to the mole judge. And then I said, I love this. Mole hole was my nickname in high school. But you guys, there's room for everybody. These guys are going over everything on the other side of the glass with Cragen. And the background music guy is not gonna quit this episode. This background music is it.
There's a conductor just sweating his ass off, like, flailing his arms.
Yes.
He's like,
you're waiting for like the fucking peak. This is a Sigur Rós song, and it's 45 minutes. No one on campus has seen Will for a few hours, and Alicia and Nathan's movie date was confirmed by the concessions manager. A phone call was logged from Will's cell phone to Alicia's room at 12:55 a.m. that night. Toots comes in. The ER in Bellevue is on the phone. Will gave Nathan as his emergency contact. Will fucking drove his car into a wall and is in the
You
ER.
were like, Toots comes in.
Toots and suits. I just spent a week with my mother-in-law. Like, in the hospital, Will's being taken back for surgery. He's on a gurney. He looks like, he's just been in an insane car accident where he drove into a wall. The doctor's like, he ruptured his spleen. And Stabler's like, well, you're going to need to stop because I'm a cop and I need to talk to this guy for a little bit.
Can you believe that?
And the doctors are like, who in the fuck?
Yeah.
But they do. They stop. And Will's barely conscious. And Stabler's like, hey, did you kill Tyler? And Will's like, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. It was just like that, too. He was just like out of it.
It's like, dude, he's eating some fucking Gardettos he got from the vending machine while he was waiting for them. You killed Tyler?
Yeah, dude, sorry. I'm so sorry.
Sorry.
My spleen, though? Can we talk later?
My spleen is like, ooh, I could really use a little patch up. You know what I mean? Hey, save those rye biscuits for me.
Those are my favorite.
Really? They're my least favorite. Oh,
Really? Oh, that's why it's
we're
perfect.
perfect for each other.
What's your favorite ones in there?
I like the squiggly little breadsticks.
Those are my least favorites.
Ah, I love that.
Okay, so now we're in the hospital prison ward. The court is taking place in Will's recovery room. Like, can they fucking do that? And here's where I start predicting shit. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Is this going to be a court episode? Like, his lawyer will say that they coerced a confession out of Will while he had a ruptured spleen and was being taken to surgery. They literally stopped him going in and asked him if he killed Tyler.
I mean, how many pain meds is he on at this point already?
Exactly, yeah. That ends up not having to do with anything. Apparently, this is all run-of-the-mill normal
This
shit.
is all fine.
This is all by the book.
This kid is in fucking traction, and they're like, hey, we're going to hold this in your room.
Yeah, I mean, he's on machines. He's all propped up and stuff. You can't tell me he's not on fucking meds.
Mm-hmm.
He says that he's not guilty of killing Tyler. And then Novak says, Will must have forgotten he confessed to the crime, Your Honor. She calls Will a flight risk because his parents are super wealthy. She wants remand. Will's lawyer, Kressler, says he needs 6 months in a rehab facility, so he won't be going anywhere. Judge rules that Will has to turn over his passport and wear a monitoring device. Bail is $200K.
And then the judge is like, and if there's nothing else, I'd like to go back to my mole hole.
He is one of the mole judges. Definitely.
He is, yeah.
So Novak and Kressler are doing a little walk and talk, and they're fucking negotiating a deal. Kressler wants first-degree manslaughter, fucking 5 to 7 years. Novak won't take it because, this is murder.
Mm-hmm.
Kressler says that Will is the real victim. He tried to kill himself because he suffers from rape trauma syndrome. And Novak is like, what? Kressler says Tyler sexually assaulted Will when he was pledging. He didn't go to the police because he was ashamed and embarrassed. Okay, I don't like Novak for a bit after this.
Mm-hmm.
Novak doesn't believe Kressler and thinks that they're claiming rape right now is too convenient. And I was like, okay, chill out, Novak.
Yeah.
Kressler tells Novak that Tyler, quote, teabagged all the pledges and sodomized Will with the pledge paddle. Ugh.
He's like, do you know what teabagging is? And I'm like, oh my God.
She's like, do I want to know? And I'm like, I hope you tell her on TV what it is.
Teabagging.
And he does. Novak still doesn't believe him and asks for proof. Jesus. Kressler's like, you know what? If you don't believe me, have your shrink talk to him. So now we're back in the Bellevue Hospital prison ward. Huang's with Will. Will doesn't really want to talk about it, but does. He says Tyler didn't force him to go down into the basement. He just grabbed the paddle and told him it was, quote, time to make you a man. He was a pledge, so he was going to do whatever they said.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler ordered him to take off his pants and, quote, assume the position. Wang asks him why he, quote, went along with it. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Why are you talking to a... Okay. Will says that when the pledge master says jump, you say how high. Will was going to take any punishment the frat dudes dished out.
Right.
Will didn't tell him to stop because he didn't want the punishment to get worse, and he didn't want to quit because he didn't want to be a wuss and a quitter. Will did quit later, though. He was sick of Tyler's shit and didn't want to fucking take it anymore. Then Will says he didn't mean to kill Tyler. Tyler showed up at his dorm and called him a quitter and started pushing him around. Will rightfully freaked out because he'd been fucking raped by this guy. He hit Tyler with a blender because he was scared Tyler would try to rape him again. And then Wang says, yeah, but like Tyler was just laying there. Why would you sodomize him with the bow? Will says that he wanted to do to Tyler what he had done to him. Huang says, quote, you let him rape you, didn't you, Will? I was like, what? And he says yes. I'm like, what kind of question is...
What
like,
a
I have
bizarre...
fucking chills right now.
Yeah.
For especially coming from Huang. Like,
it didn't make... I was like trying to make it make sense because why would Huang say it like that?
If a fucking woman goes along with what the rapist is telling them to do, it's fucking surviving.
Yeah.
Like, no.
And it should be considered that for anybody who's being victimized like that.
I can't believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Especially from fucking Huang.
I know.
Gross.
Disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now Huang's going over the info with Novak, Stabes, and Cragen. He says that Will is a textbook case of rape trauma syndrome. He blames himself for not trying to stop the assault.
And so did you.
No, that's the only reason I could see him saying, like, he's leading in a way, being like, you let him. To see if Will would say, yeah, I did. Because Huang knows that's crazy that he would blame himself, but somebody who has rape trauma syndrome would blame themselves.
But then to say it's not your fault.
I still don't like it. I still don't like it because it feels a little bit like reaffirming to that person, like, oh, you let that happen.
A little bit, a lot of it.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Huang's like, yeah, Will's a textbook case of rape trauma syndrome, and he blames himself for not trying to stop the assault. And fucking Novak, who we're already mad at, says, well, he could have tried harder, just quit pledging the frat.
Jesus.
Ew, dude. Ew.
Yeah.
Huang, Cragen, and Stabler start explaining hazing to her and like pledging and the whole process of it. They tell her that quitting would have made him an outcast. Initiation is all a part of it. It's supposed to prove that they're men. If they can't do it, they're not a man. It's dominance based. So the rape is dominance, and giving them girls' names, pledge Patsy, pledge Nancy, whatever, is a form of dominance. It's just fucking disgusting. The whole thing is so fucking disgusting.
Yeah, there's not. Stabler's like, yeah, that's why they gave him girls' names and called them that they weren't men. Because there's nothing worse for a man than to be like a woman, right? Because the women are fucking just trash.
Moleholes.
Just fucking vessels. Fucking gross. You run like a girl. Fuck you.
You run like a guy who's never cried in public. Like, just fucking...
You run like a guy whose dad never said I love you.
You run like a guy who would punch somebody if they tried to hug you.
You run like a guy that punched a hole in the wall because he thought you were changing the game off the Super Bowl, but really it was a fucking joke by fucking T-Mobile or something. Or whatever that was. Remember that fucking story?
You run like a guy that would run a family off the road because the mom accidentally cut you off in her minivan.
You run like a guy named Kevin.
You run like a guy who blames his future ex-wife for the restraining order she has against you. This could be the rest of our day.
You run like a guy that would murder any man who hit on you.
You run like a guy who calls your friends the F slur for fun. You run like a guy who won't wear tighty whities even though they're more comfortable because you think it makes you seem gay.
You run like a guy that won't wipe his ass because touching your own butthole is gay. All right, let's keep going. We'll throw some in here and there.
Yeah, okay. Where am I? Okay, so the rape is okay. It's dominance based. Let's move on. Novak wants proof of the rape or she's going to indict Will for murder. She needs a paddle. She needs a corroborating witness. So they need to get a warrant to try and find this shit.
Mm-hmm.
In the fucking quad at Wallace University, Stabler's talking to Alicia Pinkhair and Nathan, I look like Andy Samberg in a surfer guy wig.
Mm-hmm.
Nathan doesn't think Tyler raped Will. Nathan tells Stabler that what happened to Will, being taken into the basement and all that awful shit, is called an encounter session. The older brothers... I hate that they call them brothers, too. It drives me nuts.
I know.
The older brothers, like Tyler, would smack the pledges around to see how much they could put up with. And someone was always with Tyler to make sure that things didn't get out of hand. When Stabler asks who was with Tyler that night, Nathan starts acting weird. He's like, I don't know. I don't know. The basement was dark and there was like super loud music and I got a midterm. I got to get out of here. That didn't seem... They're like, well, that's it. That must have been all of the information he could give us. Alicia explains for Nathan after he left.
Which she doesn't have to fucking do. I don't like how Stabler was up in her face.
Yeah. Alicia feels forced to explain for Nathan.
Like it's her responsibility to get her man to do stuff.
Right.
Like, fuck off.
Mm-hmm.
She's like 20, 19 maybe, you know?
So she tells Stabes, well, he doesn't want to get the brothers in trouble. Oh my God. Nobody outside, there's not one person that is or has been in a frat that listens to our podcast, but nobody outside of your frat cares about your frat. Nobody.
Right.
Your frat is not, it puts a cult mentality into you to give you like this level of importance. Anybody that I've found in my life that holds and maintains a really solid level of importance, I did not like get close to them through being abused by them.
Right.
Like, that's fucked up. Stabler tells Alicia that Nathan needs to work with the detectives or he's going to end up in jail.
She's like, oh my God.
Oh my God, Nathan. Oh my God, not my fanny.
My bong.
Back at the precinct, Benson.
You run like a guy named Fanny. That's...
Back at the precinct, Benny gets off the phone with Toots and is given the deets. CSU found nothing on any of the paddles seized from the frat house. Nothing was found at Tyler's dad's house. Novak doesn't think there's a case, and she still doesn't believe them about the rape. Stabes thinks that there's a Brotherhood cover-up job happening. Either way, they're waiting on those piping hot, buttery, al dente luds. Just then, Alicia shows up with the Tau Omega initiation ledger. They keep a journal of what they do to the pledges. This is actually a real fucking thing, by the way.
I don't know why they would keep that type of information.
It's the most incriminating diary you could keep. She's fucking jazzed as fuck to give it to Stabler. She's like, check it out. Look what I fucking stole, dude.
She's like, I did what you asked, Daddy. I got some information.
Stabler's like, I cannot accept this because you stole it. And she gets super frustrated. And she's like, oh my God, everything you need is in here. There's so much more than that even. And she picks up this book that looks like it belongs to the Sanderson sisters.
Yeah.
This big, gorgeous, ornate book, and reads them some of the instructions in this ledger for drugging and date raping women. So there's not only like this happened, then this happened, then this happened, fucked up shit, but it's also like, this is how you successfully drug and rape a woman.
And then it's like, just make sure, like, tell her she can sleep it off upstairs and let the fun begin.
Make sure to dress her when you're done.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, God.
Cragen comes up the stairs and Stabler looks over to him and says, we've made cases before with stolen evidence. Like, should we? And Cragen goes, fuck yeah, dude. Roll that dice. So they do.
Papa needs a new pair of tiny cute overalls. Later that night, Novak and Stabler go through the ledger. Some real fucked up shit. An entry from the day Will says he was raped says a pledge was sodomized and, quote, he will crap blood tomorrow, but we will make a man out of him yet.
Ugh.
And Benson's like, this isn't a fucking initiation. This is pure sadism. The ledger only has frat pseudonyms, like pledges names, so they can't find them out easily. Tyler's frat name was Brother Dahmer, and Cragen's like, yeah, cute.
Gross.
Novak says she was wrong about Will's rape trauma defense and she'll plead him out. Okay, awesome. Cragen says that it's getting off pretty easy for murder. And then Stabler says, quote, if Will was a woman who killed her rapist, would it be an issue? And I'm like, thank you. Fucking thank you. Novak says she thinks that Tyler didn't act alone.
Right.
Benson says, you're right, and reads more from the ledger on the day of Will's rape. It says that 2 frat boys ran the, quote, initiation, Brother Dahmer and Brother Kong. Ew. If they want to do something about the frat, they need to
run like
figure
a guy
who
who calls yourself Brother Kong. That is such an overcompensation.
Right.
Brother Kong got a fucking tripod dick. And it's like,
Dong.
dong.
It's Brother Kong, but everybody calls me Brother Dong.
Kong. They call me Kong the Dong. Nobody fucking calls you that. Tyler, Rob.
I would love for his like mom to be like, nobody's ever called you that. And he's like, Mom. Novak says if they want to do something about the frat, they need to figure out who Brother Kong is. Even if he just guarded the door, he's still an accessory to rape. All right, Nathan is brought in for questioning. He says he doesn't know anything about Will being raped or any pledges being dragged to the ER. In the ledger, they talked about like hitting a kid's head so hard that he was bleeding and they just dropped him off at the ER like on the ground. Novak brings out the initiation ledger thingy, and she is able to identify him as Pledge Nancy and how he was hit on the knuckles with a hockey stick. Nathan's lawyer is like, whoa, and makes Novak hand over the ledger so he can look through it before they make a deal. Novak tells Nathan he's on the hook for helping Will dump Tyler's body. Adding the info from the ledger, it's assault, depraved indifference, and conspiracy to commit rape. Nathan is freaking out. And he's like, you gotta help me out, man, to his lawyer. Novak offers Nathan a suspended sentence, no jail time in exchange for Nathan to testify against the frat. Nathan is all worried because he, doesn't want to piss off the other dudes. I don't understand this mentality. But his lawyer accepts the deal. Novak asks who Brother Kong is. Nathan tells her it's Rob Sweeney. Whoa, Rob.
Oh.
Tau Omega frat house, pledges are outside in baby costumes and being forced to chug beers. Rob is outside holding a fucking hockey stick. Remember, like, hockey stick was used to hit pledges.
Mm-hmm.
Benson says, anyone who doesn't want to be fucking arrested for underage drinking better leave. Then Rob is arrested for aggravated sexual abuse. And he's like cracking jokes the whole time like a fucking psycho. While he's being taken away, he smiles and is being cheered on. It's fucking gross. Okay.
Yeah. It's very fratty. The whole, Back at the precinct, they're questioning Rob now. Rob, who in this scene at least is an absolutely terrible actor. And he's like, come on, weren't you ever young? And asks them if they know the difference between assault and a harmless prank. Xander Henry fucking busts in the door. Not another word, Rob. And Novak gets nip to nip with this guy and tells him that Rob's abuse of will led to Xander's son's death, which is a clear conflict of interest. He can't represent Rob. The whole time I was telling you that, when I said nip to nip, I was going like this. I had my hand.
I didn't see it.
I had my little finger guns over my boobs, but Gabe couldn't see it, so I had to make sure she said. We're heading over to Judge's chambers. Novak, Judge Preston's freshly permed and box-dyed hair, Rob and Xander walk down the hall together. I swear if Rob doesn't take off that stupid fucking frat hat, I want him to take it off and be just morphed into a 40-year-old balding man. Xander claims that Novak is letting his son's killer go.
Okay.
Because he's like, you're focusing on this shit. Will killed Tyler. Like, why are we so focused on what Rob's doing? Novak tells the judge that Xander can't be objective because his son's dead, but Xander argues that Tyler would want him to represent Rob. And the judge is like, yeah, he would. I agree with you. And I'm like, this is nuts.
Yeah. He's too close to this. There would be no way.
No, absolutely not. Especially when they're in the trial and he's questioning. It's just, Xander also motions to suppress the Tau Omega ledger as evidence and argues that Alicia was working on behalf of the police because she took Stabler's direction to do what she had to do, quote unquote, literally. All right. They had a conversation. Stabler, remember earlier, Stabler was like, just do what you have to do to make this, whatever. But it wasn't.
Well, he was like, do what you have to do to make Nathan. Yeah, he wasn't. Yeah.
And then he says she also vandalized the house, doing $4,000 worth of damage. And the judge goes, yeah, I also agree with you on this. The ledger is suppressed. What the fuck?
I know. And Novak's like, fuck, we literally have nothing.
There's nothing. So then they bring Alicia back in for questioning. She's with Stabler and Novak. She says that Xander came to see her and told her that she was going to get arrested for stealing the ledger. She got scared and told him she was doing what Stabler told her to do. And Stabler's like, dude, I didn't want you to steal or vandalize the frat house. Obviously, she was being manipulated to say a specific thing by a high-powered uptown lawyer. She's like, what? I didn't fucking wreck the place. I don't know who did that. After the interview, Stabes and Novak do a little precinct walk and talk. Stabler speculates to Novak that the frat brothers did the damage to increase Alicia's sentence. Novak tells Stabler he'll need to challenge Alicia's statement in court, and Benny's going to back you up, so you can totally do that. No shit. I didn't need you to tell me that Benny's going to back me up. I'm very aware of that. We are best friends.
Possibly lovers someday. Who knows?
Whenever. They're going to fucking touch genitals on their deathbed. It's never going to happen. To Novak, this is easy peasy. Like, this is what you have to do. And Stabler's like, I don't want Alicia going to jail for trying to help us. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to contest what she's saying in court. Stabler thinks that Will and Nathan's testimonies will be enough to paint the picture for the jury. So just use that, Novak. And she's like, what? No, that's not enough. I can't prove that they aren't lying. And then she goes, the word of 2 fallen pledges against the all-American fraternity. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds really fucking risky. Stabler wants Rob Sweeney to go to jail. He's a bad guy that needs to be put away. And Novak's like, cool, yeah, I know. You need to find something that's going to help me put him in jail that you actually agree to do.
Yeah. So now we're in the court during the trial. Will takes the stand. He's all beat up and wearing slings and shit. He tells the court that Rob would make them stand naked in the snow, hit them with hockey sticks, kick them, and a few guys ended up in the ER. Will tells his rape for the jury. Rob and Tyler took him to the basement to see if he was, quote, man enough to take a good paddling. Tyler paddled him, Rob kicked him and flicked lit cigarettes at him. When Tyler wouldn't hit Will as hard as Rob wanted, Rob took the paddle and called Will a, quote, queer. And he's like crying so hard because that is humiliating for a man to be called a queer because I hate America. It's like fucking, whatever. Then Rob sodomized Will with the handle, berating him the whole time, like calling him a woman and all the stuff that like guys don't want to hear. After Rob finished, Tyler told Rob that Will was bleeding, and Rob said, "What do you expect from a woman?" Ugh. Rob is fucking smiling from his seat. He's fucking absolutely a sociopath.
Yeah.
Now it's Xander's turn to question Will. He asks him why he killed Tyler. Will tells him that he was afraid Tyler was going to rape him again. Xander says that Tyler wasn't the one that sodomized him, and he was like, yeah, but he would do what Rob told him to do. Xander asked why he told his lawyers that Tyler raped him. Will said it was because he didn't want to get Rob in trouble. Xander starts yelling and calls him a liar and says Will cut a deal with the coppers and will tell any lie and blame anyone he can to save himself.
See?
Obviously, Novak is like, object, and Xander withdraws, nothing further. Now Nathan takes a stand. Novak asks him what the brothers made him do, and he just said shit like, oh, you know, like, drink and do jumping jacks, like, whatever. And Novak's like, so you weren't forced to be paddled or stand in the snow naked or drink till you puked? Nathan says he wouldn't say he was, quote, forced to do those things. He said he wanted to. He's totally downplaying all of this, and fucking Novak's pissed and Rob's fucking smiling. Novak reads Nathan's grand jury statement. He did use language that suggested he was made to do these things, Will described. She calls him out for trying to change his testimony, and he's like, I'm not changing my testimony. I had to do those things, but it was fun. Rob didn't make us do anything we weren't okay with. Then Novak notices a fucking Tau Omega pledge pin on his jacket. Nathan was invited back into the frat. Novak is fucking pissed. She calls him out for not testifying against Rob in exchange for a spot back in the frat. What the actual fuck is going on?
Terrible.
So in the precinct, the gang's doing a recap of court. Benson is pissed that Nathan gets to walk after changing his story. Novak's like, well, he didn't really change the story. He just gave a different interpretation of it. She can't do anything about that. Cragen's like, well, we still got the weekend. What can we do? Novak needs to get more evidence or a witness. Without it, she's fucking screwed. They're all screwed. They're all gonna laugh at... Okay.
No.
They're all gonna laugh at you. Yeah. Benson says that no one from the pledge class will talk. She fucking called everybody. Stabler says that something doesn't fucking add up. There are some calls from the mortuary to Xander's home 6 and 48 hours. But Tyler's funeral was 3 weeks ago. Like, who the fuck is calling from the morgue and why? Cragen's like, check it out. Oh,
Yeah.
she looks the same.
Oh my
She doesn't
God.
age.
At the Tri-State Crematorium in Queens, it's OMG, it's fucking Kristen Shaw. Let's hit her creds, okay? Bob's Burgers, Last Man on Earth, the later Toy Stories, Big Mouth, What We Do in the Shadows, Our Flag Means Death, BoJack Horseman, Gravity Falls, Despicable Me 2, 30 Rock, Sleepwalk with Me, Flight of the Conchords, Horrible People. Again, if you have never seen her or heard her voice, you are doing entertainment incorrectly. You're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And apparently she also works at the Tri-State Crematorium in this universe. Okay? So Stabes is walking with this employee to the dumpster because she needs to throw out a beautiful floral arrangement. And she tells Stabes that she was calling Xander to get a hold of him before incinerating any personal items, which, so like people will put mementos in a casket. She always checks with people before she cremates people.
With the items, yeah.
He called her back the day before and told her just burn everything. So Tyler's box is in line waiting for the incinerator, and Stabler plucks it off the shelf, opens it up, and starts going through everything. There's fucking Letterman's jacket and some other. There's a fucking box of condoms.
Box of condoms for like the party in the afterlife. Like fucking gross.
Stupid. And there's also a.
Plus, you know those fuckers don't use condoms. Jesus.
Gross. There's also a Tau Omega pledge paddle.
Rocking a jacket.
I think I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna keep this. I'm gonna keep it. He takes it to the crime lab. Let's go there. The paddle found in the box is the paddle that was used to rape Will. Someone tried to use bleach to clean it, but because of the nature of wood grain, there was blood and fecal matter really deep in the grain. And the blood is a match for Will. Xander storms into the lab because he figured out where they were or whatever. I don't know how he got any information, but he storms into the lab and he's like, hey, that paddle's my property. You took it without my permission. And Stabler stays super chill and goes, you know what? You told the funeral home to burn it, so it's discarded property. Xander's like, oh, damn it. Fax me the lab results. And he leaves. Stabler follows after him and tells Xander to spin it any way you want, dude. Rob's fucking guilty. And Xander goes, I've known Rob my whole fucking life. He's a good kid. Stabler goes, not quite. He's a rapist. They're getting closer and closer and closer to each other in this hallway. And as they're holding hands in the last of these moments, Xander points out Stabler's tattoo because he has his sleeves rolled up, obviously. And he's like, oh, yeah, that tattoo, which he got in the Marines. He tries to compare it to the frat, like the military to the frat, the Marines to a fucking college fraternity. And he's like, you were pushed so you would bond just like them. And I'm like, these guys are sweater vest wearing trust fund babies. Like, this is not the same thing. And Stabler's like, bonding? Bullshit. Rob's a fucking psycho. You saw that ledger. And Xander's like, that's just talk. Fucking
bullshit.
Gross. Fucking
locker room talk.
Trump on a bus, grab him by the pussy, bullshit talk.
I know.
It's bullshit. Stabler goes, Rob raped Will. Then Rob sent Tyler over to Will's apartment to beat Will. And Xander rolls his eyes and starts to walk away when Stabler says, or was it you who told your son to go to Will's dorm? Ooh, the tender, steamy luds drizzled in a balsamic glaze say that, yeah, Xander spoke to Tyler on the phone twice the day that he died. He's like, you give him your little pep talk on bonding? Huh, Dad? Remember that Xander was a part of the frat, so he's just as big of a douche, valuing all of the same shit that these guys do. He's got a backwards frat hat under a wig, so he can always be wearing it. Stabes accuses him of being embarrassed that Tyler's pledge quit on him because he was a pledge master, remember? And Xander told his son to go get Will back. Tyler didn't want to because he knew that Rob had gone too far. And the whole time during this Stabler-Xander back and forth, Xander's like, what? That's not what it's about. Buh, that's not fucking Greek life, bruh, or whatever. And Stabler's like, if you didn't know then, you know now. Rob caused Tyler's death, okay? How could you defend Sweeney Todd? How could you defend Sweeney Rob? How could you defend Rob when you know he's the reason that your son is fucking dead, guy? And Xander just walks away and goes, it's my job.
Fucking Stabler's mouth totally drops open. He's like,
we have very different jobs. Cut to dinner with Kath and the kids, and he's like, and then he was like, it's my job.
Can you believe that? What kind of dad does that? He should be sandbag punched. So now we're in the trial. Rob takes the stand. Novak shows him the paddle. Rob says that it's Tyler's paddle. He's like super chill and calm. Rob said it was actually Tyler who raped Will with it. He said he tried to stop Tyler and that Will was drunk and confused. Novak asks Rob why he put the paddle in the casket, and he's like, well, Tyler loved his frat and would have wanted to be buried with it. He says that when the cops asked where the paddle was, he didn't tell them because he didn't want them to call Tyler a rapist. Novak thinks it was because it would implicate him in the rape of Will. And in a smug bitch voice, he said, no, I was trying to protect Tyler. Ew. So now Xander questions Rob. He asks him if his son Tyler raped Will. Rob denies having raped Will and says he never would ever intentionally harm any pledges. Then Xander asks, so you never made them stand in the snow naked or hit them in knuckles with hockey sticks? And then Novak's like, oh fuck, and then asks for a sidebar. She wants to readmit the Tau Omega ledger. Xander says it was illegally seized and it's inadmissible. Novak says that he opened the door to allow it when he asked Sweeney the questions about the snow and the hockey sticks because that was what was in the ledger. Xander says, oh, well, then I'll withdraw the question. But the judge says, you can't unring that bell. And she allows the ledger back in. Woohoo! And then I was like, I bet Xander did it on purpose.
I thought the same exact thing because
God.
we're geniuses.
Yeah, and Stabler's dad shit got to him. Later, Novak presents the ledger to Rob and makes him read the passage about Will being raped. Oh, he doesn't want to because he knows what it says, and the judge makes him read it louder because he's being a little bitch and being quiet. He reads, "Pledge Kathy was being a weenie tonight." Weenie. I need to start saying that more about people.
What a
little weenie. Pledge Kathy was being a weenie tonight, so we showed him what we do to weenies. We suck them. No, I'm just kidding.
Gabe's like, I'll show you what I do to weenies. Not you, though.
He'll crap blood tomorrow, but we'll make a man out of him yet, which we heard earlier. Novak was like, who's Pledge Kathy? And he says it's Will. And then Novak asks him to continue reading. We haven't heard this part, but he says, Pledge Master Dahmer paddled Pledge Kathy for about 20 minutes. 20 fucking minutes.
That sounds exhausting for everyone.
Yeah. Especially Tyler and Rob.
What a big day for them.
Tyler was Pledge Master Dahmer, like we were told before. I kicked the pledge and I burnt him with my smoke, but he still wouldn't break. So I took the paddle and I jammed it into him. Dahmer said to stop, but I kept going until Pledge Kathy cried like a girl. Dahmer saw the kid was bleeding and he stopped me, just like a little bitch, to be on the rag during initiation. Holy shit.
Yeah. So gross, dude.
Rob admits he wrote that entry and then admits to raping Will. And the judge is like, fuck, this is some crazy juicy tea. Like, her face the whole time was just like, what? This job is fucking nuts.
Yeah.
In the courthouse hallway, Stabler runs into Xander and says, you did it on purpose. And I was like, ooh, I was right. Xander's like, I don't know what you're fucking talking about. That would be a breach of ethics. Xander says he defended his client to the best of his abilities. First, like, Xander kind of walks off, and then Stabler says, like, for what it's worth, you did the right thing. Xander looks sad and says, it really used to be about brotherhood, and walks away. And then the way the light is hitting Stabler's head, you can see the top of his scalp through his hair.
Oh.
Toyota, end of episode.
Toy, frat boy Yoda.
Squatting, do nothing, boo. Okay, tell me about this chaser.
Okay, I gotta tell you about this. Just shut up. I read all this stuff. Okay, so there's not an episode that's like, this is this episode. There was a little thing I read. I read a million little things. One of them, over 60 men have died during hazing while they're pledging frats in the last 20 years. Also,
No, really?
it sounds like not a lot because we're looking at like a percentage, whatever, but that's a douchey.
No, that is a lot to me. I was
Why
like,
is that a risk factor?
how has anybody died from a frat?
That's the thing.
Okay.
Because there's going to be somebody that's like, that's only 0.012% of the entire pledge population. Doesn't matter. Why is that a risk of pledging to be in a group of pals?
It's college.
Also, another fact that's not fun and totally awful. Did you know that frat guys are 3 times more likely to commit sexual violence than any other dude?
It's only 3 times? I thought it was going to be like 100% of the time.
100% of the time, every time. It's a shame because
it is.
there are benefits to, well, I'm gonna tell you about this situation.
There are benefits to what? What one?
Well, we'll get into it as it goes, you know, because usually when I think frat guy, I picture the dude in the episode with a backwards hat, chiseled jaw, white man with a very powerful father who's the partner at his law firm.
Yeah.
Not always the case. So I sifted through multiple hazing deaths and injuries, and I found our story. And here it is.
Okay.
In 2013, 18-year-old Chun Sien Deng, known as Michael, was starting his experience at Baruch College in New York City. His parents had immigrated from China to Queens and really focused on their son getting a fantastic education. Like, they were like, you're going to be first-generation American, going to college, fucking killing it. In December of that year, he and a large group of other male students were spending a weekend in a house they had rented in the Poconos. Okay.
Sounds fun.
It does sound fun. On December 8th, 2013, Sheldon Wong, Charles Lai, and Danny Chen brought Michael into the Pocono Mountains emergency room in Pennsylvania. Michael was unconscious, unresponsive, with severe brain injury and trauma to his body, which could have only been the result of multiple blows to his head and body. The hospital staff called police shortly after they arrived because of the extent of Michael's injuries. Detective Robert Miller showed up as the hospital staff attempted to stabilize Michael. Michael's mom rushed to the hospital, and his dad was en route from China because he was out of the country at the time.
Okay.
The 3 guys that brought Michael in told Detective Miller that Michael had gotten his injuries playing a game called King of the Hill.
Okay.
Immediately, I know exactly what they're talking about. We played this game when we were kids. You know, you climb up on a big plowed pile of snow, and you shove each other off, and whoever is, like, the person on top is the king of the hill.
Yeah, and you, like,
right?
fight everybody off, but, like, it's not
Right,
like...
and you win propane and propane accessories. When you,
yes,
stupid,
exactly.
But yeah, so King of the Hill. The cop was like, noted. I mean, there's just like bing, 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 little red flags throughout this entire thing, okay? They also told him that this trip was a little getaway for friends before their first semester finals. So while Detective Miller is sitting with these 3 dudes at the hospital, Detective Lucas Bray went out to the house to check shit out and talk to anybody else that might be out there. Something the cops noted as odd was that the house didn't look like a crazy party had been happening. Like, this is just like a pile of college dudes, you know?
Yeah. So it should have been, like, fucked up. Yeah.
Very possibly. Also, none of the guys that brought Michael into the ER seemed under the influence of anything, and Michael had no alcohol or drugs in his system when they did his blood work.
Okay.
So Detective Bray goes to this house. There are 23 other college students there.
Wow. Okay.
Detective Bray went through interviewing every single one of them individually, and it was really odd that they all had the same exact story. The story was, well, I went to sleep about 11 p.m., and then I woke up at about 7 a.m., and and I found out that Michael had been taken to the hospital. He heard this story 23 times. And that's the first big red flag. You know what I mean? Like 23 dudes on a weekend trip got their full fucking 8 hours while a traumatic injury was happening. And nobody saw anything?
Yeah, that doesn't, no.
Also, these guys are being vague as shit. Like, any information they did give was almost worthless.
It's obvious that they've, like, all corroborated. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So when Detective Bray would find an inconsistency in between people he was interviewing, he would call somebody back in that may have had a conflict of what they had said prior with another person, just to get them to clarify. He noted that this really started to fuck with them, so he kept it up.
Yeah.
Because some of these kids had to come back and talk to him like 3 or 4 times. Because he's like, I'm really going to need you to clear this up for me. Because you said this, and he said this, and this doesn't make sense. So their story, as it was building, became less and less solid.
Yeah.
When he got to Andrew Wu Cho, one of the 23 guys at the house, Andrew slipped up a little bit and told Detective Bray that they were all part of the Pi Delta Psi fraternity. Up until that point, they were just a big old group of guy pals, just friending it up in the Poconos. No, they were a frat, and that's when shit really took a turn. So these cops were like, okay, we've talked to a total of 26 18 to 21-year-olds who all left out the fact that the one thing they have in common is that they're part of a fraternity. Okay, that's probably a thing.
Oh, is that?
Maybe. Detective Bray then asked Andrew if Michael was a member of the frat. And Andrew very helpfully says, yeah, well, Michael was scheduled to become a member today, actually. He was a pledge. So it went from like, we've got to figure out how this accident occurred and like what's going on. Because at first they're like, maybe there's drugs involved. Maybe these kids are just trying not to get in trouble.
Yeah.
Maybe they were fucking around and, something happened. But they find out that they're a frat and they were hiding the fact that they were a frat. Very suspect. So back at the hospital, Detective Miller sits down with the 3 that brought in Michael. He's like, we got to do a second round of interview, you guys. I know that this is a fraternity and you need to fucking start talking and tell me what the fuck's going on.
Right.
So they tell him that there was a very specific reason for this getaway. And it was not, let's just get a little relaxation in before finals. This was what they called crossover weekend. So in frat culture, there are key points in joining, and they're called the 3 deadly nights. The first one is the bid. And the bid is the night that you find out you're chosen to pledge. And what I picture immediately is like the black bag over your head. You get thrown into a van and you show up in somebody's basement in your underpants and they're like, you're going to be a part of a brotherhood or whatever.
Right.
They have to talk like Hulk Hogan.
You're my brother.
The second night is the big little night when you're assigned a big brother. So they call someone their big and they're their little, and they kind of like Sherpa them.
And this is all like 18 to 21-year-olds. God,
Yeah,
gross.
and this is just like, this person is going to be their
guide. Yeah.
their guide. Yeah, their guide, their fucking sponsor through pledging. And then the third night is crossing over. And this is when you go from being a pledge to a brother. This night is where I picture them having like stupid robes and candles and masks and shit and being like, this is important. Do you see how important this is? It's dark down here. So on this trip, quote, brothers had been performing hazing rituals to initiate the pledges into the fraternity.
Yeah.
This is just handfuls of hours. Hours are going by. This is all still December 8th. So the cops eventually throughout this day are like, we need to take their phones. Like, everybody's fucking around on their phone right now.
Yeah.
And we need to take their phones. They had been communicating with each other. Duh.
Of course.
By 4 o'clock that day, detectives called ADA Kimberlee Metzger to get search warrants for the house, the cars, and the phones. They took the phones. They couldn't get into the phones. So they get the search warrants. This house that had been nice and tidy, right? Once they start going through it, they found tons of frat paraphernalia, jerseys, banners, ritual candles, candlesticks, just everything with their fucking Greek letter logos on it and shit. And all of it had been put away before police initially arrived, as if covering up the fact that a frat was important. Right? They're like, why are you guys covering this up so bad? Like, there's a reason that this part of covering it up is important to you. Cops also found clothing that had belonged to Michael in the trash. It was wet and showed that they had changed his clothes and discarded them for some fucking reason. right?
Yes, this is some fucking reason.
The morning of December 9th, Michael passed away.
No.
And this is when, obviously, it became a homicide investigation. These guys really started to wear down over time as well, and the detectives were slowly able to get more and more information from them. So there were 4 pledges crossing over that weekend, Michael just being one of them. So now they're just kind of figuring out, like, they understand what happened to a degree, but they need to know who's responsible. I mean, there's dozens of guys and nobody's saying enough.
Yeah.
So there's a hierarchy of members in a frat. Kenny Kwan was the pledge assistant, which means that he was the overseer of the rituals at this event.
Okay.
Sheldon Wong was the pledge educator. So he was the overseer of the pledges and the process of events. Charles Lai was Michael's big. So his sponsor, confidant, number one. Yeah. And it finally came out that Michael had actually been injured in a hazing ritual called the glass ceiling. The glass ceiling in this frat was supposed to symbolize the struggle of Asian Americans as they attempted to become a part of mainstream America or break through the glass ceiling. So, I mean, if you haven't, did I not say that? This frat is an Asian American frat. There were different frats at this school.
You didn't say that, but like I'm glad. Yeah,
I didn't say that. Okay, yeah, the frat is for the Asian American community, and that was the thing. Michael joined this frat because there were benefits to being a part of this group because, you know, there were a lot of like charitable things that they did and whatever, and it was really it was going to look good on a resume. It was going to look good for him getting through school and moving on, and plus he wanted the social aspect of it, and all of this stuff going into it was folklore anyway. Like these things about what happened in hazing and stuff that they didn't know going into it.
Yeah.
So in the glass ceiling, these pledges are blindfolded and made to wear 30-pound backpacks filled with sand. The backpacks supposedly symbolize the weight of their fraternity bond. And they're instructed to cross a field, calling out for their big brother and attempting to navigate that route. In this field, there are other brothers standing in the way to obstruct their path, and the physical contact would grow in severity with each rising level of the ritual. So as this is going on, they're going from blocking their path to pushing them to, you know, just making it more and more difficult for them to get across this field to their big. And this is supposed to be like the final thing. And then when they get there, then it's like, you've made it across the whatever.
Yeah.
All very symbolic. So Michael's autopsy revealed extensive bodily trauma. His entire back, like from the base of his skull to his tailbone, was completely bruised, severe head trauma. And everybody had bumps and bruises, these other pledges, but they didn't get nearly the abuse that Michael did during this ritual. Okay. And the reasoning is because Michael fought back. So like, remember that all of these rituals are new to the pledges, right? So they're going into this, they're like, okay, we're putting this blindfold on you. He didn't know that he was going to get a 30-pound backpack slapped on him. He didn't know that he's just following instructions and completely blind to the next thing that's going to happen. The only people that know what's going to happen are the people that are already in the frat.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, why did he fight back? Why was he fighting? Did he even know what he was supposed to be doing necessarily?
No.
It was a part of it, and they let it get out of hand. These guys let it get out of hand. One in particular, I believe it was Sheldon Wong, was the one who would have been able to go stop, and it could have all stopped because he was the overseer of, you know, everything that was happening. He was the fucking head counselor at camp.
He was the fucking Brother Kong or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Michael's getting pushed and hit and whatever, and he didn't like it. So he's pushing back and he's hitting back. I think not realizing he was just supposed to take whatever was thrown at him. So because he wasn't just accepting it, brothers around him were getting pissed at him and giving it to him way worse than they were giving it to others.
Right.
At one point, he had been knocked down and could not stand back up on his own. And he was speaking in slurred speech, but everybody just kept yelling at him to continue forward.
Right.
But he couldn't even stand up on his own. So then when he does get up, or they get him up, it was then that pledge assistant Kenny Kwan from a distance took a running start toward a blindfolded and likely concussed Michael, knocking him completely unconscious.
No, what?
Just tackled him. The witnesses said he was immediately completely motionless, but rigid and stiff. And Detective Miller had said that when they explained that to him, like this is what he looked like after he was hit, he knew exactly what that meant because it's called decorticate posturing. It's an indicator of severe head trauma. So if somebody has like a massive head injury, that's how your body responds.
They just fucking like stiffen up. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. The young men brought Michael inside and tried to help him regain consciousness. They were doing different home remedy shit that I guess they thought would help. They put sugar on his lips. They tried to warm him up and put dry clothes on him. And then they finally took him to the hospital. It was said to the cops that it was about 15 minutes after there was concern for him that they took him to the hospital, but it was actually over an hour. And the drive was about 45 minutes to get to this hospital.
Okay.
And after his death, the forensic pathologist said that the delay in treating Michael's injuries, quote, significantly contributed to his death, which means those charges are different, aren't they? If they would have just rushed him to the hospital immediately, it may have been a very different outcome. Not only with him surviving, but with the way they responded to an injury, you know?
Yeah.
In the days that followed, Andy Meng, the national president of the Pi Delta Psi, put out a statement about Michael's death, and he called all of their actions an unsanctioned series of events that led to his death. It has no connection to the national Pi Delta Psi, whatever, because there's different, like, I can't remember what they call them. It's not chapters, but they're like a tiny section of this huge.
And so, like, each
thing.
little section has their own sort of, like, whatever they do, right?
But they're not supposed to. They're supposed to follow very strict guidelines.
They're not supposed to, yeah.
And he's like, these are not part of our guidelines. This is unsanctioned. This is not what we stand for. This is not what this is. None of this was part of the ritual.
Hopefully that's true. I mean, who knows, you know?
I do.
Oh, inform me about.
So, yeah, Andy Meng puts out this big fucking announcement, and he's like, none of this is part of the frat's rituals for Brotherhood. Like, of course we have them, but this is not what it is.
Yeah.
Interesting. Remember Charles Lai?
Yeah.
Cops had his phone. Well, guess who was in direct communication with Andy Meng the entire morning of December 8th while Michael was hospitalized?
No.
And in fact, Andy was instructing Charles to tell the group to cover up the fact that it was related to anything to do with the fraternity, hide all the frat shit, don't mention Delta Psi to the cops. Everything was per his instruction. You do not want this to come back on the Brotherhood. This ritual, this glass ceiling, exactly the way they did it, was standard practice of the entire national fraternity.
No fucking way.
Then police got a hold of the pledge education manual. It's used for every chapter of Pi Delta Psi. And it was an instruction manual. It's like, this is how the frat is run. It was like that big fucking...
Yeah, the same thing with the episode, the ledger.
But remember now, boop, boop, boop. This is fast forward from that. So this is 2013. People have gotten a little bit wiser. And the darkest part about this pledge education manual is really the broad strokes that it's painted in. Okay, the glass ceiling was in there, like many other frat traditions and the rules. The details of it were not. In the actual manual that they were able to access, it said that each chapter was only allowed to have one physical copy of the actual manual. If it was sent via computer file, the file had to be destroyed. And then when updates happened, the physical copy had to be shredded or burned. And information could only be relayed to other members of the frat verbally. It could never be shown to anyone. There were like 2 people in each chapter that were able to even have eyes on that. So getting access to that was impossible.
These are fucking teenagers. You know what I mean? Like, they're fucking chill. Like,
yeah, Michael was 18 years old. I found that really disturbing because it's like, what is so bad that you don't want in writing that anyone can see?
Yeah.
It's because this shit's abusive standard practice.
Right.
By 2015, they had enough to start charging. In the end, there were a total of 37 defendants, all charged at different levels with the death of Michael Deng. 37 because they found out later that there were 9 other dudes beyond the ones that were at the house that had left before the cops got there. And it's like, you're gonna get found, honeys. So they're like, oh my God, we have all these people to charge and there's all this different shit. And they had to like do basically a LuLaRoe pyramid situation of who's going to get what charges and how much and how does it get spread out. So they were charged in groups. Everybody was charged with hazing. Anyone who lied in the initial investigation was charged with hindering apprehension. And the top tier of charges included murder in the 3rd degree, which they were able to plead down to involuntary manslaughter and assault. So Charles Lai received 342 days, which was time served because he wasn't able to post bail. So he was released at the time of his sentencing. Sheldon Wong and Raymond Lamb were given 10 to 24 months. Kenny Kwan, the guy who actually physically tackled him in that last hit, was given 12 to 24 months. The National Fraternity had a jury trial in this case, and on November 17th, 2015, the national organization was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter, aggravated assault, hindering apprehension, and hazing. The frat was fined $110,000 and was banned from operating in the state of Pennsylvania for 10 years, which then got overturned in an appeal, but the fine stuck. I know.
It's not that much money. Okay.
I know. The school created a moratorium on Greek life until 2024, meaning all frats could no longer recruit new members, but only for that period of time. So they're going to be able to start picking it up next year.
Ew.
In 2018, in response to the death of Michael Dang, New York State passed an anti-hazing law. And what I really found there was there's different tiers of hazing now, and the biggest one is hazing in the first degree, which would include causing physical injury, is a Class A misdemeanor, which means in New York, it's the most serious classification of misdemeanor and could equal a year in jail, fines up to 3 years probation, suspension of one's driver's license. So bigger charges than were given prior. Everybody that served prison time for Michael's death have since been released and live quiet lives, not a whole lot of social media, can't really access too much. That's it.
Shit, I never heard of that before. Next week, we got season 5, episode 13, Hate. I didn't make a big description because the descriptions that I saw online seemed like to give a lot away. So I just wrote 2 Arab American women are raped and murdered. They were trying to improve relations among other groups.
Cool.
There's something with xenophobic fucking whatever, and it's going to hit close to home in 2004 because it was right after 9/11. Well, rate and review us.
I hate this.
I know.
Rate and review the pod. Give us 5 stars. That's the important takeaway here, please, folks. Gross.
Email us at spupod@gmail.com if you want to send us anything, which we love, by the way.
We don't get mad at that.
We don't. P.O. Box 176, Deforest, Wisconsin 53532. Check out our Instagram at SVUpod. Get fucking pod merch and more.
Get merched
at svupod.com. Join the Facebook group SVUpod Elite Squad. I fucking love it. And we also have a chat group called Walk and Talk. Hashtag little bit loud for indie pods. And whenever you find them, hashtag it. Just keep doing it because then we can all come together and like listen to new stuff that doesn't have fucking networks and shit. And then join the Patreon. We have a bazillion stuffs on there. We have so much fucking content.
A bazillion stuffs.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good, so much, so dumb, and you're missing out if you're not there.
You got friendship oats, you got garbage cookies.
Some bonus chasers here and there. It's mostly just us friendshipping really hard.
Some fucking ghost stories.
Oh, yeah. If anybody ever emails us like a ghost story or you send us questions about anything, we almost always read that shit and talk about that shit on the Patreon.
Not almost, we do. Period.
We do. Yeah, we do. If you send a ghost story, I immediately get anxiety diarrhea about the next time I get to read it to Gabe because I know how excited she'll be and I love to please her.
Anything that ever says like ghost or haunting, I do not check the email because I want to be surprised and like.
I almost throw my phone out the car window because I'm like, oh my God, I have to make sure Gabe doesn't see this first.
No, I see it and I go, nope, don't you do it.
Yeah. It's like she's proven herself that she's not going to read ahead, but I still don't trust it.
Oh my God, I love that. I'm to be trusted.
I know. You know what? I trust you more than I trust anybody.
I love you so much.
If I ever murdered somebody, who do you think the first person I would tell is?
John.
You.
Oh yeah.
Long before. I would. John.
Well, he has the money to help you.
Yeah, but I have to.
I have the heart and
process
soul.
it with you first.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye. T-shirts. Get your ice cold T-shirts. Like stuff like that.
Boogerless pizza from Dominoes. Can you roll the window up a little? Can you shut up a lot?
What's that from? Just kidding. I remember.
It's from your mouth to someone who didn't deserve it.
She knows she did.
Love you, Mel.
Love you, Mel.
You run like a guy who loves a finger in his ass, but will never ask for a finger in his ass. Just do it. Mm-hmm. It's 2017. Everybody's eating ass. In 2013, why did I say it like somebody who doesn't know how to say years? In the year of our Lord 2000, after the 2, 13, 1, 3.
Stop it.
I know. I thought you would like that.
I do like
You
it.
love movies with that.
I do like it, but it's not you, so I'm like, quit.
Like if your favorite movies were a guy, that's what his voice is.
In the year 2000.
In the year 2000.
And to our Elite Squad patrons.
And to our
Is that what it sounded like?
Oh my god. It was like two and
No,
two.
I didn't. Stop it.
Did I?
Okay.
True la loo.
And to, oh my god. And to our Elite Squad patrons, Sonia W, Marissa M, Elkie H, Annie G, Mary D,
Andrew.
Oh, we miss you, Andrew. Rebecca D, Miranda B, Shelby W, Lex, Emily T, Kayla W, Mallory G, Bonita R, Marin,
Vanessa, Amy P, Melanie G, Courtney W, Ursula S, Kate H, Yanga, Kayla J, Catherine M, Kate P, Jessica S, Nicole M, Acacia V, Katarina G, Danielle W,
Kelsey D, Jenna M, Joshua H, Tammy J,
Bert,
Crystal, Lucy M, Trisha S, Sam D, Mac Attack.
Did you hate yourself right after you said it?
I know. Every time I do
mid saying it, you were like, ugh.
Casey W, Abby W, Alexis J, Lauren T, Kaylin B, Camille Z, Nisha G, Maggie D, K. Allen,
Katie M, Eliza W, Crystal B, Jessica P, Zon and J, Nada M, Sin, Christina D, Madison H, Emily, or did it? Or did she? Or was it? That's what I was trying to get to.
Okay. Victoria B, Scout G, Melissa M, Desiree D, Drew B, Quentin S, Amberly C, Louise M, Sapphire, Monica K, Katie S, Trish S, Angela D, Brenna T, Andrea M, Natasha S, and Andrea H. Thanks, you fucking guys.
Thanks, you fucking guys.